no place to go. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. I'm sorry, I'm in such a Christmassy mood. It's only November 3rd, but the Christmas carols are coming out. Anyway. Let it snow, let it snow. Okay, so today I want to talk about well, not necessarily making friends, I can talk about that later, but meeting people that down the road could potentially be friends. And how in the world do you do that? How do you make that first step? This is especially for those people who are in situations right now where maybe you're not in school or you're not in a work environment that provides colleagues that are your age or in your have your same interests. And whatever situation you're in, if you are feeling right now just very lonely and very isolated, I sympathize. I just want to say that I completely and utterly and deeply empathize with that. I think especially if you live in the U.S. and in particular parts of America too, are more so. I don't think the culture provides a social atmosphere that is warm and welcoming and makes it easy to reach out to people or be reached out to. So I completely understand, and I'm sorry that you're feeling that way. I've definitely felt like that before too. But what are some things you can do that puts you in that prime position for meeting people that down the road could be friends? And I just want to point out too that having that social circle around you is, I think, a very deep and important need. And sometimes I think, oh, I'm independent, I don't need people or whatever, but I really do. And I think especially if your family isn't nearby or maybe your family isn't emotionally supportive, having those friends is an emotional safety net, it's a physical safety net. You know, if you're really good friends, down the road you can call that person down the road, and when your car's broken down and you know it's midnight and they come out in their pajamas and pick you up. I've had a friend do that before, and so it can make you feel physically safer, which I think is an evolutionary need, you know, for survival. But then also they're the people you reach out to emotionally too. So anyway, that aside, I'm sure you already know how important friends are, but and maybe you're feeling the lack of them right now, and that's really painful, and I'm sorry about that if you're feeling that. So, okay, so my few tips on how to meet people, and right now I'm in a situation where I am definitely trying to meet people. I am in the countryside, I'm in a foreign country, and how do you do that? Number one, this is my number one rule, is wake up, shower, and get dressed. And I know that sounds obvious or something, but in Irish culture, sometimes people will show up without, well, they say they'll call on you without ringing, which means that they'll knock on your back door without having called you on the phone first. And I remember one time it was 10 in the morning, and I missed an opportunity to talk with someone because I was scrambling to get out of my pajamas and because I didn't get to the door in time. And you know, but in American culture, generally that's not going to happen. People aren't just going to drop in. You know, I wish that would be amazing, but it's still important to shower and get dressed, because even if you're going out to the supermarket or something, I always like to feel in a state where I would be happy to talk to someone, rather than if I looked in the mirror and thought, oh my gosh, it raises your confidence if you put on, you know, makeup if that's what you like to do, or jewelry that makes you feel just pretty, or even just being fresh and clean. That's saying, come into my zone. You know, I'm welcoming you. And sometimes when I'm, you know, just wearing a sweatshirt or just, you know, makeup still under my eyes from last night, that's sending a signal that I just really don't want to talk, which is okay. You know, I'll stay inside that day. That's okay to have those days. But it will put you in the mood for socializing if you feel fresh and put together. So make that first step and to be prepared for your day, for any social situation, any opportunity that is presented to you. Number two, reach out to people. And I like to go about socializing with the idea that people want to be reached out to. And that might not necessarily be true, but it puts me in the mode of being forward-reaching and confident. Because if I'm thinking, these people are longing to have someone talk to them, to have someone notice them, you know, in the supermarket line, sitting down next to you in a cafe, then it makes me take that first step rather than sitting there and waiting for someone to reach out to me. Because the thing is, if that's what you're doing, and I often do that too, you're going to end up feeling very frustrated, very miserable, very depressed, because most of the time people will not pick up on your vibe, saying like, talk to me, please talk to me, and usually they will not do that. I wish though, it would be nice, and once in a while it happens, but you have to be proactive in your socializing. So try to think of other people as lonely. Try to think, don't go about assuming that everyone has these wild social lives and they're so fulfilled and so happy. Try to think that they are longing for someone to extend that hand of friendship to them as well. Then also, you're going to want to be looking for like-minded people. So first of all, talk to anybody. I do say that. Just talk to anybody you can about anything you can. But it does help if you notice little things about them that can provide like a conversational that little hook. For example, one time I was sitting next to someone in a cafe and he had the Tree of Gondor stitched on the back of his leather jacket, and I just had to say, oh, excuse me, is that the Tree of Gondor? And that started a conversation. Or I was in a coffee shop last week, and a woman was sitting there, and she was going like this. And I reached down and said, oh, excuse me, what novel are you reading? I'm looking for just something new to read. And she turned around and said, oh, I'm not reading anything. I'm just looking at the table. Which brings me to my next point. Don't be afraid to look silly. That's a huge thing, is I think so many of us, myself included, feel self-conscious or embarrassed or feel like they're going to look at me strange if I talk to them. Sometimes they will, if you're in if you're in a city where people just don't talk to you. Sometimes they will look at you funny, but you just have to get that kind of tough shell and think, I don't care. There's going to be that one person that's just going to leap up like electricity and respond to me. And so get over the feeling that you'll look like a fool, because maybe you'll feel like one for a few seconds, but that'll pass. And the more and more you do it, I think, the easier it becomes. There was a moment that I regretted recently not reaching out, because I was walking down the road and someone was fixing a roof, and I heard him quite clearly singing a beautiful song, the Willie McBride Irish song, and I was learning it the week before, and I could have turned around and said, oh my gosh, I've been learning that song, I love that song, and had an exchange back and forth for a few minutes, and maybe kept on walking, or maybe made a new friend, but I didn't. And so I'm encouraging myself as well to make that first move, even if you feel like, I don't know, it's outside of the script or something. And that's the thing, is that so many of us can just live on such a daily schedule, kind of a routine, and the idea of reaching out to a stranger is something so new that our brains can resist it sometimes, because it's unfamiliar. You don't know how they're going to respond. You don't know who this person is. That's exciting too, but it also can provoke some anxiety as well. But it's one of those things where our brains adapt to things the more and more you do it. So you just have to find the guts within you and the bravery within you to start doing this and to start stepping out. Also, you can take advantage of the many online opportunities we have these days. such as making a Craigslist ad in the platonic section, you know, saying, I like to hike, I'm not a big drinker, I'm spiritual but not religious, or whatever you want to put. I do like to go out to bars, whatever you want to say. And I Craigslist can be golden sometimes. It can be pretty bad, but it can also be, I look at it as like a mail order catalog. Sometimes you can put in exactly what you want and you can get something very, very similar to that. Um, Always meet the person in a public place first, even if it's you're a female and it's another female. Always, always. So, anyway, my dears, that's about it just for making that initial reaching out. And I really encourage you, you know what? You could be a blessing to someone else's day. Think about it that way too, is that who knows, the person that you're talking to might be having a terrible day, a lonely life, and you could be that shining star, that like warm little flame. And again, even if it's just a conversation in the grocery store or in a coffee shop and it's a few minutes long and you go your separate ways, you could make that person's life a bit happier, and that's worth it. That's worth any embarrassment, that's worth any awkwardness, that's worth overcoming any fear, absolutely. And then the most amazing prize and treasure of them all is that you could end up with a really special, special friend who could be a friend for a lifetime. You never know. So anyways, I'm sending love to you all, and definitely share your stories of courage because I need the encouragement too. If I come up with any awesome stories, I will live so that I can come up with awesome stories. How about that? And then I'll share them with you guys. All right, lots of love.